All right, let's finish this Friday off with work looking at an assignment. I think this one is the easiest one we've done this week, except maybe the first one when we started learning about decimals. So this one says I can model the equivalent of tenths and hundredths using the area model and place value disk. Well, Mr. Walker did a bunch of modeling it using the area model. Today, I just want you to be able to find equivalent fractions, okay, and equivalent decimals. Just understand that fractions and decimals are related. We know that 3/10 looks like that. We've learned that this week. We know 50 hundredths looks like that. We've learned that this week. And so we're just looking at these today, the first few, and we're saying 3/10 is how many hundredths? Well, think about fractions. 10 times 10 is 100. 3 times 10 is 30. So 3/10 and 30 hundredths are the same. There's 3/10 as a decimal. It's the same as 30 hundredths. Yeah, I'm not going to draw a box that has 100 boxes inside and shade 30 of them like Mr. Walker could do on his computer. But if I did, you would see that 30 boxes out of 100 is exactly the same as 3 boxes out of 10, like he showed you in the video. That's the area model, okay? So you've already seen it, so there's no need for you to draw it. We just need to make sure we understand it and answer these questions today. 51 hundredths is how many tenths? Well, how did I make a 100 a 10? This time I divided, didn't I? I divided by 10. 10 divided by 10 is 10. 100 divided by 10 is 10. 50 divided by 10 would be what? 50 divided by 10 is 5. So 51 hundredths is the same as 5/10. So if we're writing that as a decimal, 51 hundredths is the same thing as 5/10. Okay, all you have to do on the first couple is find the equivalent part of the fraction there. The next part of your assignment today, you're just writing the numbers that are given to you in fraction and decimal form. So 37 hundredths. Okay, fraction form, 37 hundredths, all right? 37 hundredths. 37 hundredths in decimal form is going to be 37 hundredths, just like that. 37 after the zero decimal there. Right? 75 hundredths in fraction form and decimal form. 75 hundredths fraction form. Decimal form, we're going to make sure we get that 5 in the hundredths place. 75 after the decimal. Right, the place value disk in decimal form. Well, how do you write place value disk? Well, we've got to count them, don't we? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 10 hundredths here. And then I have 2 hundredths more. So altogether I have 10 and 2. I have 12 hundredths shown in the picture here. So I've got to write it in decimal form. Okay. How does 12 hundredths look in decimal form? Just like that. 12 hundredths. All right. This time we've got, and we know these are groups of 10. So here's 10. There's 10 hundredths. Here's another group of 10. There's 10 hundredths. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hundredths. So altogether I have 10 plus 10 is 20 plus 7. So I have 27 hundredths. But we've got to write it in decimal form. Looks like that. 27 hundredths. That's easy. Now, the next part, we are given a fraction to write in decimal form. 3 hundredths. Well, I don't have any tenths, so I've got to be careful on this one. 3 hundredths, I've got to make sure that 3 is over here in the hundredths place. And since I don't have any tenths, I put a 0 there. So 3 hundredths is just a 3 in the hundredths place, and everything else is a 0. But this time we've got 15 hundredths. So make sure that 5 is in the hundredths place. And what they're wanting you to see is if we're thinking equivalent fractions today, 15 hundredths would be the same thing as 1/10 and 5 hundredths. Okay? 1/10 and 5 hundredths. Fraction form now. What does this say? 72 hundredths. Writing this in fraction form, this is 80 hundredths. 2 more. Write in decimal form. We have 7/10 and 2 hundredths. Put a 7 in the tenths place and a 2 in the hundredths place. 80 hundredths, well, that's the same thing as that right there, isn't it? 80 hundredths would be 80 hundredths. All right, like I said, today's is pretty simple. Just making sure you understand how to write decimals pretty much, and looking at decimals and making sure you understand how to write them in fraction form too. So I think you'll do great on this. Not very hard. It's a great, easy way to end a week where we've introduced something new. Next week, we're going to do some interactive Google slides to review some of these things to make sure you got them this week and understand them really well. So that'll be next week. Today's assignment shouldn't take you very long. I'll let you get started. If you have questions, as always, you can ask me in the Google Meet. See you then.